This is Nick the Quick, and we have a very special show today. Of course, the Leiter family at the Shore is very well known for their baseball, and we've got Mark Sr., we've got Mark Jr., who's starting to make his own name in the sports world. He played at North High, he played at NJIT, and now, of course, he's with the Phillies. We got that right. And the first question I wanted to ask you as a fan is, what was the difference for you in the three levels? Is it always such a big jump?
No, not at all. I would say that for the most part, it's very similar. It's executing what you're trying to do. As far as the competition, it's definitely a step up from college for sure. But you could definitely tell that. A lot of the guys that were in Lakewood in the beginning of the first half of the year, towards the second half of the season, you're facing those same guys in Clearwater. So the competition, yeah, you're gonna have some better players, but for the most part, you're facing a lot of the same guys that you just faced in Lakewood and Clearwater.
So you feel pretty good about it when you see the same people coming up. You know what you've done before, and it really gives you a little bit of a confidence boost.
Absolutely, especially if you've had success maybe in Lakewood against a team, and then you're facing their high A affiliate, and you faced 6 out of the 9 guys in the lineup. It definitely gives you that a little bit of confidence, but it also gives you the comfort to know that you've already faced these guys and you know what to expect. So there's no feeling of unknown or uncertainty at all.
Okay, Ken, find out from Mark Sr. Get that Leiter background, which I know you've been anxious to get for the fans.
Well, any of you that saw our Sports Chat show that we did on Comcast, and it was about the Ocean County history of sports at the Ocean County Historical Society in Toms River, we talked about the Leiters and the Frazier family, the 2 big names here in the Jersey Shore for baseball. And Mark came from a large family. He had actually 4 brothers, all pitched for Central Regional High School, starting with John. John told me one time that he didn't get much publicity because they didn't know what they had in the Leiters. He was the first one. And of course, Kurt followed, who was my player of the year at WOBM in 1978. And then Mark pitched along with another player on his team that made the major leagues, Jeff Musselman. 2 major league pitchers on the same high school team. That's unbelievable. And then, of course, Al came along, and of course he had that game, 32 strikeouts. It was an unbelievable game, matched up with John Spinapon, a great pitcher from Wall. It ended up in a 0-0 tie. That was written up in the New York Post this year on the anniversary of that game on Easter Sunday. Mark, you certainly had a great career. You pitched a long time in the major leagues. You pitched for many teams, and I'm going to ask you if you had any favorites as far as the guys you played with all those years that you pitched, because you were a starter, you did some middle relief, and you closed one year for the Phillies when Ricky Patalico got hurt.
Right. Yes. I don't think I could pick. Well, thank you for having Mark and I. First of all, this is nice to get to talk baseball anytime. You're asked that all the time after you play, fortunate enough to play a long time. What was your favorite? Who were your favorite players? And when you're in the major leagues, they're all nice places. They're all beautiful stadiums now, and I'm lucky enough that I got to play with the old stadiums still around, and then all the new ones are starting to be built. But I enjoyed all of them. Playing for Philly was a dream. That was a dream. We grew up Mets fans, but we were always going to the vet, right? The Berkeley Little League had the rec bus trips, 50 cents for the bus trip, 50 cents to sit up in the yellow seats, and we hardly ever missed an opportunity to do that. So when I was a free agent and had the chance to play for Philly, it was a no-brainer for me. So I would pick Philly for that reason. I have to say, though, San Francisco and playing for Dusty Baker and getting to experience living up in Seattle for the summer, beautiful place. So they were all good. I couldn't pick just one. Same with players. You have so many good teammates, and I was fortunate again to play for a lot of teams, so you get to meet a lot of different players. One of the things about playing for a lot of teams is you get to experience living all over and see, the different leagues, American League, National League, the different style of play. But I was very lucky to get to do that.
Mark, you followed your son. I asked Mark Jr. before we set up here how he enjoyed his past year. For fans that remember, he did a heck of a job with the Blue Claws here in Lakewood, and he came back for this past season, and he got promoted to Clearwater. He's in the Phillies chain, and I'm going to ask you to give an assessment of Mark's season this year.
Well, I mean, he had a good year. He had a good year. He learned an awful lot. And anytime you're getting moved up, you're doing something right. And for things that I'm proud of him for is, I go to the Philly alumni dinner usually every year. I get invited to that, and it's nice to go. But the compliments I get from head people in the organization, that not only how happy they are with the way he's pitching, but what a fine young gentleman he is, and how he works great even with the younger high school kids. And it's been a pleasure that they're thrilled that they have him. That makes me feel even better than his performance on the field. But everything he's done on the field, I mean, he knows how to pitch. I've been telling my brother Al since he was in high school, he can pitch. He's way more advanced than us. In fact, Al used to say, well, I find it hard to believe, but we were hard throwers. In high school, it was 0-2, I'm throwing one behind your head, and I'm going to hang a curve that you're going to step out and be afraid of. And we thought it was a good curve. It wasn't. It was just that we threw hard. And Mark didn't have that kind of velocity that we had, but he learned how to pitch at a young age, use the changeup, move the ball in and out. So I can't say I was impressed with what he did, because I guess deep down I've always known he can pitch. This kid knows how to pitch if he just gets the opportunity. I'm happy for him, but you can never be complacent with professional baseball or any sport, because it's not over till nobody wants to give you uniforms. He did great, though. In
a minute, I'm going to talk to Mark. What is he doing now here in the area? And he is working with people that want to learn how to pitch. But you want to talk to
yeah,
Mark?
I want to get the youngster in over here now. In the off seasons, because we're here at Phil Houston's, and of course Frazier trains here. Every time we come in and do shows, usually Todd's here working out. What do you do in the off season?
We have the Phillies are really good about setting the minor leaguers up with an off-season workout program, and it kind of gives you step by step of where they expect you to be and what improvements you should be making at what month and what week, and it goes through a couple different phases where it's building your power for a few months, and then it's stamina, and then it's like speed and agility stuff. So following that a lot until the throwing program starts, and then once the throwing program starts, then I start working with my dad on that, and we get together, we're throwing every day and getting off the mound 3 times a week and just working on different stuff.
Did you ever see a place like this? Phil Houston, right? We got to get it right, guys. He lets us come in here. And Frankie Edgar, did you ever hear him? The guy that just won? Frankie trains here. That's Todd, and that's the Frazier stuff in the back, and there's people all over. Did you ever see any? Is your place like this with all these new things? If they had this when we were playing, I mean, these tires, this stuff. What do they have with the Philly training camp?
The Philly training camp in Florida, we have an outstanding building that's I guess it was built the year before I got there, so it's brand new, state of the art, and they got I think 6 batting cages in the back, straight back, and then we have a big weight room in the front with brand new equipment, everything you could ask for. There's a training room right in there. So I mean, I'm very lucky to be with the Phillies, because I don't think every organization has something like that, especially not for the minor league guys. So very lucky to have that kind of facility to go and work out in and use to get better. So
all right, Ken's going to find out what your dad's doing now. We talked about his career. Now let's see what your dad's doing.
Well, I'm sure Mark's worked with Mark Jr. as he grew up and helped him to be the pitcher he is today. Mark, I understand you have an instructional school where you're working with people that want to learn how to pitch.
Yeah, I do pitching lessons, and Mark does them with me in the off season, especially now playing pro ball. He doesn't have to go back to college, so We do it together. We have a lot of fun. He's an excellent teacher with it. From the time he's little, he would do it with me. He would work with the little guys, and now he can be a professional pitching coach with what he knows. And he's always listened. From the time he was 11, 12 years old and coming with me to do the lessons. How old were you when I started? About 13, maybe? Shortly after my career. But yeah, everything I do with the lessons is going through with Mark, and I've always known this, but being reaffirmed when he was in high school and college, how important velocity is. I know a lot of people would like to say, well, velocity isn't everything. Not really, but if your dream is to play pro ball and to get a good scholarship to college, it means a lot. You're going to get college recruiters. First thing they do is turn on a radar gun to see how hard you're throwing. So for me, it's important to teach kids to use all your body when you pitch. Your legs, your glove arm for arm speed. You got to learn to develop arm speed, all the power in your lower body to reach your full potential velocity-wise. And then the other stuff is pretty easy, curveball, sliders. We get into that with the older kids. But, you want to have a good foundation when you're young, learn what you're doing. And I see how many kids now, they get their scholarships, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40%, they're getting something to continue to get to play pro ball. And for some of them to still have a chance at their dream of maybe playing at least minor league ball someday. If I can just say something, Mark, you guys were talking about the lifting. At the end of my career, 2002, that's when I saw a lot of teams were starting to get the nice facilities. With all the new stadiums, and what they started doing was even the spring training facilities, they started putting in the beautiful gyms outside the locker room. Because before that, we'd go on the road to places like Cleveland, or even the home when I was with the Tigers. The weight room was, 40 by 40. It was just
horrendous.
It was nothing, if that. There was nothing there. And then they all started putting in these nice facilities for these kids today. It's beautiful what they have. There's really no excuse for them to be like, I don't really feel like going in there. As soon as you walk into these rooms, you're like, wow, this is great. So they're fortunate for that, very.
Mark, is there any website set up for your instructional school that people can get in touch?
Yeah, Leiter Advantage. What do we have? It's the Leiter Advantage, and anytime you get in touch with me. I'm very busy in the winter, spring and summer. I do it year round. As long as I'm home, I'm doing it. I love doing it. I had opportunities to stay in pro ball to coach. I've got my little girls at home, and with Mark playing, the last thing I really want to do is be traveling around and still coaching professionally when I can work with kids right here in Ocean County, Monmouth County. I have kids from all over the place. But yeah, if you just type in, type in my name, Mark Leiter, but it's the Leiter Advantage.
Okay.
.net.
Go ahead, Marky. Mark Jr.
.net. You got to remember the .net.
Oh, the .net.
.net.
Yeah, all right, we got to put that whole thing.
It's not .com.
All right, let me ask you this now. I had a son that played, and I was a maniac. I was the worst father. What's it like when your dad always come to the game? I hear your father's intense too. I heard that when you pitched at North. Am I right or wrong?
I wouldn't say intense. I'd say he's focused. He's definitely into the game, and but it's a great tool for me to have because he's into the game as much as I'm into the game. So afterwards, I'm able to analyze myself and want to know what happened in here, but he remembers exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm very fortunate to have him to be able to, definitely help me out with, looking back at the games when you don't have video.
So after the game, you go over things. See, because you're in a unique position. You're like Ken and I played different. So I played basketball was my sport, but baseball, you're the man, the pitcher, and you and your dad can talk about that. Like the second baseman's not going to go talk to his father, but
right.
He could really help you. Does that work out?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people ask me is it hard having your dad that played and having expectations or anything like that? And honestly, I mean, what would be hard about it? I'm lucky enough to have someone that I can learn from that I get to talk to every day. I'm not paying to go to him. I'm not paying to do different services with him, but he's there to help me out whenever I need it. So whether it's a phone call after a game that we're going to have a conversation about, or I threw my bullpen session and my curveball wasn't as sharp today, and even though I have a pitching coach there that was helping me too, he's someone that's with me in the off season when we're working on stuff every day, and it's a great tool that I'm able to have to have him with me, whenever I need it.
Well, that's great. That's great, man. You got something?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, but years ago we did a autograph show with Mark and Al, and Mark told me we're not going to get many people there, and I think it was it 1995 they had the strike? Somewhere in there?
1994 off season.
It was the season when they had the strike and no World Series, and we wanted to raise some money for a fund that Mark was involved in. His son had a
spinal muscular atrophy.
That's Lou Gehrig's disease in children, and of course Mark lost his baby due to that. So we did a fundraiser. I never ran a autograph show before. I should have charged admission, but I think we did all right. And Mark said nobody's going to come. It was Thanksgiving weekend. We did it Friday. Al was up for a reunion at Central Regional, and I got there early in the morning, and the Elks Lodge in Fork River, the line was already out the door. Cold Friday morning, and the line never stopped. They have a huge bingo room there. The Elks is the largest Elks in New Jersey in Fork River, and they had the line going up and down. And Mark brought some autographed baseballs. I remember Kirby Puckett and Ripken, and we raffled them off. But it was Marky then. You were just a little guy then, but Kurt came down from New England. He worked for Reebok, going around to the baseball stadiums taking orders for shoes. But it was a great day because we were all together, and the fans, they stick with the players. There was a strike, but you had your fans there.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it was crowded. When that strike happened, I would always tell usually dads that would be talking about it, they were bitter about the players. That's fine. Be mad at players and all that, but don't hate the game. Don't not take your son to a ball game because the greed between owners, players, whatever, however you want to look at it. Baseball is such a great game. It's a fun game. So when that kind of stuff happens, be disgusted with certain players, but again, I'm not going to not let my son. I wouldn't even let Mark's mom punish him when it came to baseball. When he did something wrong when he was little, you're not taking his baseball away, because look what it did for my family. Take something else away, take laptops away and cell phones or whatever, but you're not going to miss your game. And when Mark was younger, if I could bring this up, this is really for dads that are watching, hopefully. When my son was done with his Little League games, I never talked about the game. I wouldn't, I've heard horror stories from kids where they get in a car and they dread to drive home because the dad's going to be all over him because he was 0 for 4 or didn't pitch good. I would leave him alone. I already know he's a competitor. Your kid's a competitor. They love the game. I would have nothing to say to him. Sometimes we joke around. I'd say, you suck today. And he, try to make him laugh. But he would come to me every single time, sit down, we'd sit in the basement at night, and he'd sit down and say, so what'd you think, Dad? Now I know he's ready to talk about the game. I'm not going to sit there and cram it down his throat when he's a competitor and wants to win. I don't need to tell him that, can't believe you threw an 0-2 fastball down the middle. He knows what he did. But he always would come and say, so what'd you think? Now I know he's ready to listen. And the same with college. It was such a great experience. I would never do it again. But I was the pitching coach at NJIT.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, and it was bittersweet. And one of the biggest thrills of my life, of my baseball life, big leagues to anything, was the first time I made a mound visit to go out and talk to my son in a college game. It really, it was special. It was a special moment. I'm going out to talk to my son as a pitching coach. But Mark is such a competitor. Whenever he did bad, he'd come in the dugout and say, you're not calling enough changeups. You call too many curves. Not enough that. And I'd be like, man, I did. And I'd bring the scorebook and say, look, I am doing it. You're just not. So it got to the point after about 4 starts where when he came out of a game, he would just go I would tell him, get away from me. I want to talk. I got another kid I got to watch here. He would go sit down the end of the dugout, and we would just stay away from each other. Otherwise, we'd have been fist fighting in the dugout. And he'd go sit.
I love it.
Yeah, it was amazing. And, now I'm trying to focus watching this kid. I'm looking down at him like, you son, I'm going to kill you down there. So it got to the point where he would just leave me alone. And then usually during the second game of the doubleheader, he'd come sit next to me and say, "So, Dad, what'd you think?" Same as he did when he was little. And then I'd say, "Well, this is what you did positive. I mean, it's never all bad. I don't care how bad you do in a game. Real competitors, we beat ourselves up. We always look at the negative when we do bad. But you did something good in that game. Maybe it was you got ahead of most of the hitters. You just weren't finishing them off. You didn't have the same breaking ball today. You were hanging your... So there's always something you have to look at and say, well, after you beat yourself up, this is what I did wrong. I gave up too many hits. I walked too many guys. Well, what did I do right today? I must have done something good, and try to end it. And this goes for any little league, any pitcher, boy that's watching, is remember to look at some of the positive things you did too, because you're always going to do something good, and that's what you kind of want to remember. Definitely work on your mistakes, but don't abuse yourself that by the time you're 16 you want to go hang yourself because you can't throw a ball. It's so it goes both ways. But
and
he was
Mark,
a great student.
By then, that's why they give up on baseball.
Yeah.
Kids give up on baseball at 12 because they have bad Little League experiences.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Now, what would you have to add to your father's thing? I like that. Now, what would you have to add? Because, you're in it now. You're the guy in the mix. Well, we can only talk. There were times when we were the guys in the mix, but you're the man that's there now. What is it like today? Is it tough out there? Competitively?
Absolutely, especially when you look at like the younger age kids, like the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. They're now doing these AAU teams, and they're playing Little League AAU, and then maybe some of them are even doing a second AAU team. So really, I mean, when you look at it like that, they're at a much more competitive rate even than when I was just a couple of years ago. So definitely it looks like it's more competitive now, but as far as like in the college ranks and stuff like that, it really is the same as it's always been. It's more competitive in the sense of getting there and stuff, but once you're there, it's I think it's similar to how it's always been. My dad talks about how college recruiters, they'll come with the radar guns and stuff. That part of it gets extremely competitive, and all it takes is maybe some high school kid hitting 87 one time. He might not even pitch for his high school team, but he just is really good at being able to, get loose and hit a high velocity early in a showcase. And, that kid might get recruited before someone that led the shore conference in every pitching category because he has the projection tool that everybody's looking for with velocity. So I can see where some of the competitiveness with parents really trying to push their kids to try and get to that college level and get the scholarship so that they can have a help with their paying for college. But most importantly, it's got to be fun. If it's not fun for you, then you're not playing for the right reasons, and you're not going to enjoy it in the end because it's more pressure than fun.
I just want to ask Mark one question. You started the year at Lakewood, then you went to Clearwater. What are your hopes for next year? If you start off well, is there any chance you might get promoted again?
I would definitely hope so. If I start off doing well, I would get my opportunity to keep moving. But at the same time, I understand that it's not really up to me. It's not my choice whether or not I'm going to move. The only thing that I can focus on is when I'm given a chance to pitch is that I do well and give my team a chance to win, keep getting better, so that whenever the Phillies decide that I am ready to move up or whatever the case may be, that I'm prepared for that, and that I've been working towards pitching at a high level, and when I get the chance to pitch at higher levels, I'm pitching with high level.
If I can say this with Mark, one of the benefits, and I shouldn't speak for Mark, but I'm going to guess he's going to agree with this. In myself playing and my brother Kurt playing, because my brother Kurt talks with Mark a lot about the minor leagues and letting him know what you need to do and how your dad did things, because Kurt and I roomed together in A-ball. We were on the same team. What helps Mark, too, is that I can let him know, listen, you were 22nd rounders, so there's first, second, and third rounders over the last few years that those are their guys they kind of push, so you can't get upset if you're pitching better than them and they get called up before you. Because a guy who signs for $2 million, which isn't Mark, he didn't get the bonus. So guys who get the huge signing bonus, if they're doing close to as good as Mark, there's a good chance they'll move before Mark.
But you can't let that discourage you, because a lot of guys end up going, well, why did those two get called up? I'm doing better than them. Well, they might have got $3 million signing bonuses, and you got a $10,000 signing bonus or whatever. They're going to look at those guys first. So he has that where he gets to say, hear me say, listen, that's the way the game goes. That you don't worry about anything other than getting people out. You keep getting people out, and eventually the cream rises to the top, and you'll get to the next level and the next level. Because it's easy to get discouraged in pro ball in the minor leagues. You see guys getting moved, and you can't figure out, how did that guy just get moved up? You don't know what the front office is thinking. Maybe they don't really like the guy, and they want to find out once and for all what he can do. So.
And to add to that, you guys asked about, how having my dad have gone through it helps me and stuff. That right there is one of the biggest things that I'm learning now that he's helping me with, is that a lot of guys will sit around and they'll speculate about what's going on and different things, and my dad's already warned me about all that kind of thing, and so when I see it happen firsthand, I've already kind of heard it before and been prepared for it.
Before Nick wraps things up, Mark, you want to mention again, type your name in on the...
Yeah, thank you. LeiterAdvantage.net. Pitching lessons. Mark and I do it. We love it. We have fun. Kids get a lot of fun and a lot of learning. If you're going to invest in your kid playing travel ball and little league, a few lessons are going to be a great benefit.
Nick?
Now, is it really fun? I like to hear that, because kids always want to hear that.
Absolutely.
To me, in today's sports with kids, when we grew up, Ken and I, and we're just a little older than your dad, I think, but we really did have fun. We really did have fun. We didn't even have all these uniforms, all these umpires and refs and stuff, Yeah. Today they make stuff so technical, and we've got about 30 seconds, so hit on that.
Honestly, it's the thing I enjoy most, and I wouldn't rather do anything but play baseball, and it's a dream to be able to continue to keep going and play. But it's got to be fun. I mean, it's got to be what you love. If you want to keep going, you got to really love it and have fun.
Guys, I want to thank you. Mark Sr., great job.
Thank you.
Mark Jr., wonderful job, and
Thank you.
good luck.
Thank
Ken,
you.
we always work well together. And remember, kids, just don't go out and watch a game in the stands or watch it on television. Get out and participate. Stay off that alcohol and drugs. Nick the Quick signing off.
Remember, champion athlete.
We go back to the old days when we were Hicks.
Nick the Quick signing off. See you next week. That's a good one.